Day 3, SEC Media Days, 3HL live from Dallas, Texas. Brent Doherty, Don Davenport, and Ron Slay. Want to talk some Tennessee football, Slay Dog?
Why wouldn't I?
Josh Ward, sports animal, joins us now. Josh, what's up? How are you?
Good to see you all.
Oh, Babsy, what was that look, Babsy? You don't want to talk Tennessee football?
I do want to talk Tennessee football.
It just gets forced on you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Over and over and over.
I'm like surrounded by balls.
Yeah, Tennessee went through
I
here.
do love you guys.
Tennessee went through here yesterday, and now we're talking with Josh Ward. Also, Alabama through here today. You like that one too?
Nope.
Hey,
that is where me and Vols fans can't agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh, let's start with the college football playoff because we're going to talk with Rich Clark in the next segment, the executive director of the college football playoff, taking over for Bill Hancock. So the top 5 conference champions are the top 5 seeds. The top 4 get buys, right? So then this is the cool thing, and I know Slay's talked about how much he loves this. The first round basically is at home field, or you can choose an alternate site as the home field team. Do you think, number one, do you think that happens, or do you think they all go on campus? And number 2, is that actually maybe not a benefit for the bye team to not play the home game in terms of financials?
Yeah, that's going to depend on who you ask the financial side of it, because administrators might have their own opinion. Local economics wouldn't mind having a big-time college football playoff game in their city. Coaches want the rest, though. I'm pretty confident in that.
For sure.
So my guess is that most of the time, almost every time, you're going to see it go to the home side of the school. But what if there's a group of 5 school or a site that they have hotel issues where hosting is a big challenge?
Yeah.
Similar to, we see it in baseball, and it's not the same thing, but in the baseball tournament, sometimes they have to move the home site because the higher-seeded team doesn't have everything in place to be able to host. So I guess there is that potential. My guess is, though, most often those teams that are 5 through 8 are going to be the powerhouse programs that have already put things in place to make sure if they get to host, they're ready to do
So that part of it, you don't think, and I don't think any of us think, are designed for, like, Tennessee to play in Nashville. It's more like Liberty to play somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
Or like Toledo.
Madison,
Or Toledo.
I mean, a perfect example. Like, their stadium's not that big, you know.
I would still think the coach wants to play on site, but there's going to be
Right.
pressure there from the administration to go bigger.
Yeah,
right?
if Tennessee's hosting this year, Danny White will come through and start kicking people out of their homes to make sure there are places to stay for everybody coming in town for the game.
Like Bristol.
That's right. I promise you, they'll make sure that it happens at UT.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. It's going to be fun. So from a Tennessee perspective, what did you learn yesterday? So, like, to ask you a question and then give you some background. So we asked, was it Big O?
Yeah.
At the end, Dawn asked Big O, she said, who's the real UT? And he goes, without question. He said, Tennessee. That's it. And that's how we ended the thing. I know Cooper Mays was talking about Tennessee.
There was a little passion. There was a little bit of passion with it,
There
too.
was 50 additional years of Tennessee before Texas began. So, like, that storyline has already started.
Yeah, that's probably our favorite from our conversation. Swain brought it up with Cooper because Cooper ruffled some feathers, and his response was, no, I didn't make the claim. I just provided the facts.
The facts, yeah.
That then led to Texas fans
He's already a
realizing
politician.
who the real UT
oh,
is. Exactly.
wow.
So his point was, I didn't say who the real UT is. It is Tennessee, but Texas fans figured it out, and now they realize that it's Tennessee.
Well,
so
you go back
that
to the
battle is underway, and I love it.
You go back to the baseball tournament and Tennessee playing Texas A&M, and I saw a tweet. Somebody was like, if not for Tennessee, you guys would be Mexico A&M.
Yeah,
So-
there was an A&M fan asking, what even is a Vol? Well, if you check back in the history books, you'll find out pretty quickly what a volunteer is.
It's fun, though. I
Yeah.
mean, it's an
it's all
added
fun.
Great.
aspect that's fun in the SEC and all that. So I want to hit a little bit on Coach Heupel because I thought that, and we've had numerous conversations about this last night after we got to sit down with Heupel for 20 minutes, and I felt that he was a little different this year. I felt he was way more comfortable, and maybe comfortable is not the word, but this is how I took it. He really likes this team, and he likes where they are, and he's pretty confident in what's going on with this program and where him and his coaching staff and all the pieces are right now. What is your take on that, and did you guys feel that at all? Because you deal with him every day.
Yeah, I described him as being pretty loose.
Yeah.
Coming in. It seemed that was the case talking to the media as a whole or sitting down on Radio Row with us and when he sat down and talked with you. And I think part of that probably is He's confident in his team. He's confident and comfortable with what he has going with his program as well. So that includes the team heading into the 24 season. That includes what's going on in recruiting. They just picked up another 4-star wide receiver this past weekend. They feel pretty good about some announcements that are coming, I think, over the next month to what they want to build for the future. It's a 12-team playoff, and they're a real contender heading into the season. And I brought up in 2021, even 2022, that season was really good, but Tennessee wasn't talked about preseason as a real player. They ended up having a huge year. He was showing up, and he's trying to build the program, and he's answering so many questions about what happened before he got there, and he didn't know what was coming. I think now he really believes in what they have, and he talked about his confidence. Josh Heupel is a really confident person.
Right.
That's because of what he's been able to do as a quarterback, his play calling ability, what he designs offensively. I think, to your point, he believes he has the players. If you look at some of the play calling last year, it'll show that maybe he didn't have confidence in what he was calling for the guys on the field. With the wide receiver group this year, that's why he's willing to talk about the best, deepest group that they have at that position and across the team. He's more confident in what he can ask those players to do this year as compared to a year ago.
Josh Ward from the Sports Animal. Josh and Swain in Knoxville, 11-2 Central.
Yeah, it makes a difference when you talk to him. And when he first came in, you felt a lot more of we got to do this as a team. We got to push all in the same direction. Now he can go down a list of saying, no, we have this guy at this spot, this guy at this spot. You got guys like James Pierce. That development and having guys to lean on like a Rodney Garner, I think is him, Coach Eckler, all these guys, assistants that are up under him, do a phenomenal job, and I think that allows them to be comfortable too.
They've been working together too for now entering their 4th season.
Yep.
So he has not had to replace a lot of guys. He's had to replace a couple, but
Goldless
when he goes to that defensive side, though, those guys have been working together. And in the spring, Tim Banks talking about the defensive line. They want to have the best in the country, and whether they will or not, they have real confidence that group can be that because of Pierce, because of Amari, because of Omar Norman-Lott coming back. And a lot of times we can talk about depth, and we're really just kind of doing a roll call. Again, back to confidence. How many players do they trust being on the field? Cooper was talking with us yesterday about trusting each other. Probably wasn't in place enough last year. In 2022, they developed that. And I think that's something that will have to come, but I think they're confident because of what they've built, the time they've spent together, that trust, once they go out on the field in these big SEC games, that it'll be there.
You know, it's interesting talking about the depth on defense. I think Dawn asked him the question about where you are now as opposed to where you were when you got the job defensively in terms of depth. And he, looked down and, kind of took a deep breath, and he goes, you guys have no idea. You have no idea where we were. And to me, that meant, what you're saying, they have the ability to rotate bodies. We were talking to Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, and he's like, Tennessee, he's like, nothing against anybody else or anything, but Tennessee's got the ability to rotate 4 guys, interior defensive linemen.
Yeah.
They haven't had that opportunity in so long.
Yeah, it is real, and I think it's real to where they truly don't believe there's a drop-off. Like where Omar may be the top NFL draft prospect right now, but Amari is on their radar. Bryson Eason is a guy that should get a lot more talk of how important he's been, and then young players like David Hobbs. He's an NFL guy, I think, in a couple of years, and they didn't have anything close to that a couple of years ago. Linebacker, they were putting guys out there that he's got to play. And it wasn't any fault of those guys, but that's where the depth was. Now it's, Arion Carter is back, and he's a guy that Alabama really wanted, and he chose Tennessee. And T. Lander's a guy that I think he came in and was more ready right away than they expected, and then Peely coming back, obviously, to help lead the group.
That's going to be big,
there are still certain spots where players obviously have to prove what they're going to do. Depth will be tested. Injuries will occur at some point. Like Cooper Mays, they do not want to lose.
No.
And that would be a concern if he goes out. But across the board, both sides of the ball, the depth is real and the talent is clearly better, and they have some real playmakers. And a lot of those guys coming back, like we talked to Jim Nagy as well, and he was talking about, these were guys on our radar a year ago because thought Cooper would be ready for the Senior Bowl. Brew McCoy, they were going to invite him, and then he suffers the injury. Now he's back. That's to Josh Heupel and Tennessee's benefit.
He's good, right? Bruce ready to go.
Everything we hear is that he's good to go and he'll be ready. And I kind of thought they might bring him here.
I do too.
Because we were talking to Josh Heupel about not only his development as a player, he's a good player, everybody recognizes that, but he's really grown into what Tennessee is, and they love him in Knoxville. They love Brew McCoy. He did a charity golf tournament that he put on. It was Brew's tournament a couple of weekends ago. So coming back for another season, he was ready to go to the NFL after last season. If he hadn't suffered the injury, he would have. But everything we hear is that he's good to go, and he is a reason why they're confident again in the wide receivers. Players coming back like Squirrel, Brew, I think Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod should get more attention, but Matthews and Brazil coming in, Chris Brazel coming in, that has made the wide receiver room look completely different than it did a year ago.
Josh Ward with us from Knoxville. You mentioned linebacker. Edwin Spillman is a local guy from Nashville. I know that he has been turning heads. And then yesterday, Keenan Peely told us he's the guy. Like, watch for my guy.
Yeah, I'm curious there because he's turning heads or he's just moving them back when he hits somebody in their next snap. That was
They run through him.
that was the word. Is man, he hits.
Yeah.
And I'm always skeptical. What kind of opportunity is a freshman going to get? But I didn't really expect anything out of Carter or Thielander last year, and they ended up playing. And there were times where look in the red zone when Tennessee's on defense and they need to get a stop at the goal line, and the staff trusted those guys. So I don't have high expectations right away just naturally with freshmen, but everything we hear is that maybe it's this year. Like special teams at worst, and that's a big deal. He's an Eckler guy, I think, on special teams, and pretty soon at linebacker, Spillman's going to be making a difference.
When you look at Tennessee's schedule, how it sets up, who's at home, who's away, what stands out? What do you think that they are going to be able to navigate with this schedule, and what's concerning?
Yeah, so I think
Real quick before you answer that, over-under win total of 9. So go 10-2 or 8-4. That's where we are.
Yeah, and I've been in the 9-3 range, by the way, which is a cop-out answer because of the over/under.
Congratulations.
So I apologize for that.
Swain will give you some for that.
But, I mean, it's there for a reason.
Jason Swain is too, by the way. So I
okay.
usually I throw it over to him so they can get mad at the VFL
Swain.
more than me. Yeah, call him. But a lot of people have the opinion the schedule is favorable, and I agree with that too. So I would say 10-2 before I would say 8-4.
I mean, the game that's different, or the differential game, at Oklahoma, right?
Yes.
That's the one that you get that win. 10-2's in play. You lose that 8-4, 9-3.
Yes. If Tennessee can go 4-0 in September, meaning beat NC State, beat Oklahoma, in the 2 games away from Knoxville, 10-2 in the playoff is very much in play. It's very real. Yeah. And what I think really makes it favorable, because it's not easy, but what's favorable is that you don't have this back-to-back stretch that scares you. We're like, man, we got to go through these 3 games. How are we going to hold up? Florida at home, Alabama at home. Florida's one that should not just be crossed off as a win. There's too much there, and they still have players there, but it's at home. The games that they get, Mississippi State and Arkansas, going to Arkansas, they need to be prepared for it, but if they are, they're going to win the game.
Yeah.
And they're not going to lose to Mississippi State on homecoming.
Right.
Kentucky and Knoxville.
It is what it is.
Ron,
it is what it is.
Any Tennessee fan afraid of Kentucky?
Kentucky.
Don't get him started, Josh.
That's what we refer to them as.
So NC State is a good challenge, but I think Tennessee's the better team when they walk out on the field in Charlotte, and they'll have plenty of Tennessee fans there. Going to Norman's really tough.
Oklahoma's that first.
It's such a huge
one.
game.
And you know there's going to be so many storylines with Heupel going back. I mean, who was it? Their quarterback told us yesterday, Jackson, he was like, I've heard, possible game day if we're all where we should be at that point in the season. So, it's going to be big.
Yeah, besides I think, video game and Nico, even the players, it was a bunch of Oklahoma questions because they know their head coach is going back to Norman, too. So that's a huge game. Bam at home is winnable. Georgia's the only one I can't sit here and really like Tennessee's chances. But I like to love every other game that Tennessee will play. So that's why I think the 10-2 talk is real, because the schedule allows a really good opportunity for Tennessee.
It's funny talking about the schedule. We don't even mention Florida. That's where we are.
I mean,
well, he kind of mentioned Florida. He said you can't.
It's a rivalry.
A little bit.
Yeah,
Although,
it's
you mentioned it saying
ready,
you can't look over them.
Right.
And honestly, there's some people out there that are saying that Florida's going to be the surprise team a little bit in the SEC. Now, for Billy Napier, it better be.
Yeah, their roster is better than what their win total is because the schedule they play is brutal. But to the schedule, their game against Tennessee is in Knoxville.
Yeah. And 4.5 is the win total for Florida, by the way.
Brutal.
So you get.
I mean, they had 5 wins last year.
Yeah. Haven't had a winning season since 2020.
Yeah.
Might as well throw it all out there.
I see.
Sorry, Gator Mike.
You give Dylan Sampson a bulk of the load as far as running the rock.
Yeah.
If Cam Seldon and Peyton
Lewis,
if they're not healthy and ready to go, what do we look for in the backfield?
Yeah, so that's a position group where there is a question going in.
Yeah.
No question about Sampson's ability. He's
Right.
proven he's a playmaker
Without
in the
question.
SEC. He does have to prove what he can do from a week-in, week-out standpoint workload. That's why opener against Chattanooga 2 weeks later when they have another weaker opponent, you get him his carries and then you get him to
Get
the
him out,
sideline.
yeah.
You get Peyton Lewis some work. And
Yeah.
there has been a lot of optimism about Selden maybe coming back earlier than we thought 3 or 4 months ago. So that would be good. He still has to prove what he can do, and he's come back from an injury where you still worry a little bit about how many hits he'll be able to take.
Right.
There's also Deshaun Bishop, who missed last season because of injury. He's a walk-on, but he's better than a walk-on, I think, talent typically. Has really good speed, open field playmaking ability. But that is a question, depth. If Selden doesn't come back at full speed, I think that's a lot of pressure on Peyton Lewis, and maybe he's ready for it. He didn't get to go through spring because of injury, but has speed and would fit in really well. So there's a scenario where they are just fine at running back. But going into August, they're going to make sure Dylan Sampson is good to go for the start of the season.
So, Nico, obviously, tons of hype. We saw the bowl game. They're running the offense as fast. I told Heupel this at the Big Orange Caravan. Slay and I were talking about during the game. They were running the offense as fast as when Hooker was there, faster than when Milton was there. What do you see from Nico? Are you buying in? Any caution for pause? Or
Yeah, I think that's a big reason why the 22 talk is coming back. Hey, we want to get back to what was going on 2 years ago with that offense because they were able to go as fast as they wanted, and the quarterback was able to operate. And they also started last season without Cooper. He's so important at center with that offense being able to go.
Right.
He's in a literal state of getting the football and making the offense set up as quickly as possible. So there's been the question of, okay, how many wide receivers are they going to play? How much will they rotate at receiver, running back? And I think the reason that question is back again is because the offense they expect to be back at full speed. So I'm a believer. I'm buying into what others are saying about Nico. Part of it's what is said on the record, but also off the record of how Nico carries himself. He comes in with so much attention. Yeah. He's one of the first athletes getting that level of NIL conversation. That's a lot coming in, and I think Heupel means it when he says at the same age he wouldn't have handled the amount of attention and pressure. But I think that's because Nico just kind of gets what he has to do. I saw him when he arrived as a high school senior. He enrolled early after a Tennessee basketball game in, I think, January, and he's leaving the facility at 9:30 at night, meaning he had been there doing whatever kind of work he was, knowing I'm not the starter this upcoming year. He had just gotten on campus, but he's putting in the work, and his teammates, people at UT, have backed that up. He still has a lot to learn. He's going to make mistakes as a first-time, full-time starter, but he's going to make plays, too, and I think he showed that against Iowa. The playmaking ability in the red zone, that could be a difference maker in big games when they need a touchdown instead of kicking a field goal.
There he is. He's Josh Ward, the sports animal. Josh and Swain, and your teammate Jason Swain has had a couple of family members that he has lost recently. So just let him know that we in the Mid-State are all praying for him and thinking about him, and certainly love him.
Yeah,
so
we'll do. Swain's the best.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
All right, when we come back, the executive director of the College Football Playoff, Rich Clark, will join us. When will they go from 12 to 16? That's initially my
Already?
question.
You're going to ask that?
Yeah, of course. That's next. Retail 104.5 The Zone.